Hello, BookTube. Welcome to another video. With this one, we're gonna, as you can see, more up close and personal. With this one, I got to get closer. I think that it works better. See if you can take a look at what is on the shelf, and I will pull out certain ones and have a few things to say. But I'm gonna try to get through one bookshelf in each video. I have 8 bookshelves altogether, and so it'll be 8 videos, and um, they're pretty much collected by genre, and you will just see how it goes. Anything that you see, especially things that I point out, I'm willing to do reviews of or just ramblings of. I want to get that out there so that we can turn people on to amazing works that I love. Here we go. So, standing up sideways, we have a few collected works that I had to print off on the bottom. There's a collection of the Avatamsaka Sutra. Chapter 39 is the last chapter in Avatamsaka Sutra, and it's basically an overview of the entire sutra. But the Avatamsaka Sutra is the king of all Mahayana sutras. It is mind blowing. It's like a trip. It will blow your mind. There's so much going on in the Avatamsaka, and I love it. I'm definitely willing to share. We have some discourses that are from the Pali Canon. Things like Abhidharma literature. Abhidharma is, the Pali Canon is the original Tripitaka. Buddhist teachings that were written down in the first century. This is still 500 years after the Buddha. It was an oral tradition for a long time. But the first time that the monks got together to write down and collect all of the Buddhist teachings, they called it the Tripitaka, which is 3 baskets. You have discourses of teaching, you have discourses of tradition, practice, and then discourses on the mind. And the Abhidharma is all mind science, a lot of classification of mind states, and things like that. Abhidharma literature is awesome. A little hard to work into if you're not, hip to that sort of thing. So we have some beautiful, works like Treasures of the Buddha and the Buddha book. There are more art books showing different paintings, sculptures, things like that have come out of the Buddhist world. And then on the top we have some of my favorite. So here, I don't know why this one made it up here, but this is the Principia Discordia. It is a trip, a crazy mind trip of a work. Not Buddhist. I don't know why it got up here, but this is Robert Anton Wilson, who wrote the Illuminatus trilogy. It's actually on Byways and Booklands to be read. The Illuminatus trilogy is for this year. This is a small work that Robert Anton Wilson did, probably in conjunction with somebody else as well. It is setting up their own religion, which is just a crazy thing. So it found its way on the top of that shelf. The BDK English Tripitaka. This is a collection of teachings that are in the vein of the Lotus School. Buddhism that follows the White Lotus Sutra as their principal text. The White Lotus Sutra is known as the heart of Buddhism, the heart of all sutras. So it's very accessible. It's more of stories. It's actually told in prose and then told in verse. It's a beautiful read. And my favorite translation of the Lotus Sutra is the Threefold Lotus Sutra, put out by Risho Kosekai. Now, this is actually a collection of 3 sutras. One sutra is the Sutra of Innumerable Meanings, the White Lotus Sutra itself, and then the Sutra of the Meditation of the Bodhisattva Universal Virtue. That is a bodhisattva. That is a universal worthy, is sometimes he's translated that name. It is a bodhisattva that is the ideal bodhisattva. So it is a wonderful sutra. There's another copy of the Lotus Sutra. This is the Burton Watson translation. This is the translation that's followed by and used by SGI, is another school, another group that follows the White Lotus Sutra as their principal text. They are worldwide. And then I have a copy of the Lankavatara Sutra. This is a new translation put out, or not new now, maybe new, 4 or 5 years ago. Put out by Red Pine. It's done very well, has a lot of good commentary to help you to work into the Lankavatara Sutra. The Lankavatara Sutra is very dense. Lankavatara Sutra is the principal text of Zen Buddhism, which when it started was called Chan Buddhism in China. So the Lankavatara Sutra is an essential work. It's very good. The Flower of Chinese Buddhism by Daisaku Ikeda. That is put out. Ikeda was someone who started SGI, that group. So there is a lot of literature that I have that is Ikeda. I love the White Lotus Sutra. It's one of my favorite. The first book of Buddhism that I got into is The Teaching of the Buddha. It's not this copy that I read. I got this years later. And this is a wonderful introduction to the whole of Buddhist thought based on the Pali Canon. And it is something that gives a good survey of Buddhism as it is. Definitely worth a read. If you're interested in Buddhism, that's the kind of thing to go for. Something that's just going to give you the tenets straight. Radiant Mind. This is Essential Buddhist Teaching and Texts, it says. There's a lot of poetry in there. There's a lot of beautiful verse in that Radiant Mind. Wisdom of the Buddha, Unabridged Dharmapada. Dharmapada is one of the most accessible works ever to come out of Buddhism. It is part of the Pali Canon, one of the original discourses, sutras that the Buddha himself gave, and everybody's heard things like from the Dhammapada. That is things like, the mind, the body follows the mind. The mind is the leader. The body follows the mind. Things like that. Just little snippets that are of truths that give you a little. The Diamond That Cuts Through Illusion. This is a translation of the Vajracchedika Prajnaparamita Sutra. The Vajracchedika is the diamond thunderbolt. Now that is, it looks small. This is by, the commentary is Thich Nhat Hanh. He's really a popular, Buddhist figure from Vietnam. He's a Vietnamese Zen master. Now, the Diamond Sutra is so profound that little volume there, The Diamond That Cuts Through Illusion, and his commentary is just about as accessible as you can get for that sutra, and it will blow your mind. You will be, you will see what a spiritual baby, you are as far as these spiritual teachings and truths that are universal. It is all about, they're breaking and destroying ignorance and falsehoods. So that's great stuff. There's this is Tibetan Buddhism, The Jewel Ornament of Liberation by Sagam Popa. A beautiful work. Very, very in depth of Buddhist cosmology, Tibetan Buddhist cosmology, and spirituality. Just goes into all of it. The Buddhist Religion, Robinson Johnson. This is another kind of a survey of just Buddhist thought to work through and to work into Buddhism. It's a great work. The Door of Liberation. This is a collection of essential teachings of Tibetan Buddhism. Found this and just got it because it looked right up my alley, and I enjoyed this one immensely. There's very deep stuff in this, and it's not very dense. They just kind of give it to you. And Buddhism is sometimes very dense. Self-liberation through seeing with naked awareness. This is a sutra that is Tibetan Buddhist as well. Translated and given out with commentary. Self-liberation through seeing with naked awareness is about cultivating the mind so that you can see the truth and reality as it is, and then you see a little bit deeper, and these kind of things are liberating. The Buddha himself was asked, what is your teaching about, and or what is your teaching, what is the core of your teaching? And he said that as all the water has the same taste, that of salt. All of my teachings have the same taste, and it's that of liberation. And I think that all spiritual teachings, liberate the being that is practicing them. If they're true spiritual teachings, they're all about liberation, becoming more and more able to live, and to live well. We have the harmony of emptiness and dependent co-arising. That is another sutra that is in translation there. The harmony of emptiness and dependent co-arising. Emptiness is the void from which everything is potential. Dependent co-arising is the actual flowering of things through creation. How things relate and build and create one another, and more complex forms, all that. But there's a difference between the emptiness that is the potential and the dependent co-arising. They're like two sides of the same coin. So that is a work that expresses the harmony of those. Sutra of Wei Lang is there. That is a book called that is also known as the Platform Sutra. It's a great work. It is of Zen Buddhism. We have the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. The Wings to Awakening is a wonderful kind of accessible way of working into Buddhist ideas. In the Buddha's Words, this is just translation of the Pali Canon itself. This is discourses from the Pali, the Tripitaka. It's a great volume, and I like getting those texts themselves and being able to read them and see them for myself and work into them. We have a book. This is a wonderful book, Religion and Nothingness. This is a philosophical work from a Japanese philosopher, and it explores the idea of nothingness, which is in Japanese called sunyata, and that is that infinite potential that is nothing, but that has the potential for everything. And it explores nothingness as the ground of being. It's a very, very dense work if you're not philosophically minded, but it is very, very rewarding. We have the Bodhisattva Vow. The Bodhisattva Vow is a fundamental tenet of all Mahayana Buddhist schools, and that is that you work for enlightenment not for your own self and not for your own liberation only. Of course, you're liberating yourself throughout your practice, but your aim is not self-liberation. Your aim is liberation of the entire construct, of every being. And the Bodhisattva vow is the vow you take at the beginning of your practice, that you will not rest and you will not stop in your practice until all beings are liberated, until all beings are happy, all beings reach enlightenment. So, a beautiful work. A guide to the Threefold Lotus Sutra. This is a guide put out by Risho Kosekai of this book, this Threefold Lotus Sutra here, which is my favorite translation, and it's super good. This is a good way to work into the White Lotus Sutra itself if you are minded to go towards that. Just pick it up. It's very easily put out. Now this is a very special thing that I came across too. I got this at an antique shop, and it was just on one of the bookshelves in somebody's little spot. The 100,000 Songs of Milarepa. Now Milarepa was a dark magician, in Tibet at first, and he did some really horrible things, and he then had what they call a paravritti, which is a complete turning about in Christianity. It is where you repent. It is a repentance, a complete turning around of what you formerly were, and to go toward what you want to be. So these bindings are beautiful. Cloth bindings. Got your stuff, a little gilding there. These are beautiful, and Milarepa was a poet. So these are all songs of Milarepa, or poetry, and songs that are just beautiful and very deep. He ended up being one of the most influential Buddhist monks in the second half of his life, and brought Buddhism to many people. So we're going to go, that's the first shelf, we're going to go down a shelf, bear with me. Let's see if we can do this or not. Alright, so I have the Liturgy of Nichiren Buddhism. Nichiren Buddhism is Nichiren was a monk that popularized the White Lotus Sutra as the essential text of Buddhism. So, and that's SGI, the group SGI, put out that Liturgy of Nichiren Buddhism, and it's just basically their chants and how they go through a service. Be Here Now is a classic work, a very classic work of Tibetan Buddhism, all about the guru, and what's the guru's role in a neophyte's spiritual progression, a disciple. The Three Pillars of Zen, that is a foundational text of Zen Buddhism. Zen Flesh, Zen Bones. This is my favorite collection of Zen writings, and this is actually Zen and pre-Zen writing in here. There's a lot about the guy who brought Zen to China. His name was Bodhidharma, and he started the Zen tradition. Basically, like I said, the foundational text is Lankavatara Sutra, but Zen is all about personal practice. It's all about meditation, a very strict meditation practice. Space, Time, and Knowledge. This is a Buddhist text that actually puts out a new paradigm of thinking compared to the current, where we are currently, and where anywhere that we've been before, in the light of a Buddhist mind state. Meaningful to Behold. This is a collection of Shantideva's work called A Guide to the Bodhisattva Way of Life. Shantideva was an amazingly influential Tibetan Buddhist, and he wrote a lot of work. His stuff requires commentary. We have The Science of Breath. That is just another, just basically on practice. We're All Doing Time. This is a work that was put out by an American Buddhist and popularized through the prison system, saying that you can find liberation It's within. It's not outside of yourself. So we're all doing time, here in this world. The Crystal Mirror. This is a collection of work that is from a periodical that had been running, before my time, but now it's collected into these works called the Crystal Mirror. The Diamond Light of the Eastern Dawn is more collected Tibetan Buddhist meditations. So a beautiful work, and Shantideva, Atisha. There's quite a lot of meditations from different Buddhists in there. Here we have the life of Milarepa. This is a biology of the life of Milarepa, the one that did that Songs of Milarepa that I have up there. The Tibetan Book of the Dead. This is a foundational work of Tibetan Buddhism. Just read it. It's amazing. It talks about the in-between state between life and between life and being reborn. Death is not an end to anything, guys. So when you're in that state, they call it the bardo. It is an in-between state, and I mean that's that space that is in between two lives. And it is a place of pure consciousness. What level that consciousness is on is completely decided by the individual that is experiencing it. And reality is there in all its glory, and can be understood just as much as the consciousness of the being that is there can handle. So there's a lot of practice to be able to withstand more of reality, because when traditionally, and in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, it says, upon dying, the full of reality shines in on the being whose consciousness has broken free of the body. And what happens is that consciousness shrinks away in terror. It is too much. It is too bright. It is too much of too much life, too much experience for the consciousness to embrace fully. And then that consciousness drops down to a level on which it is comfortable. Now, that's different for every consciousness. So the Tibetan Book of the Dead lays that out.